All right, this is a test using a 40 slot cylinder, which of course has a lot less needles in play. So I am testing the new Trine Toe up method, and I have found that with less needles, even with the same tension, there's just not enough stitches to hang if I follow the 3 wraps that are in the original pattern. So I tried doubling it, 6 wraps, working through the needles. Keep in mind that you run out of needles pretty quickly. And it worked mostly. So now this is third try to try with 7 wraps, which is pretty much all there is between this 40 slot, between the half mark and the heel hash, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is fine. But an example where this is a smaller sock, hence only 40 needles. And this is my limitations for my pattern. So here we are. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cast on, ideally without any edits, just for a quick kind of trial see. So let's cast on using the cast on bonnet. Because the lesser amount of needles on this same sized cylinder, the needles themselves are quite a distance apart. So don't worry if you're using your universal cast on bonnet and you have to really stretch it. Just use the next ring that makes more sense to hang. This as long as you're minimally applying at least every second needle in the bonnet, so you can have pretty much even downward tension. Alrighty, so let's continue here. So just get it done. Trying not to block, but you know how to cast on by now, so don't worry if you don't see everything at this point. So this is, of course, going to be an audio version of my trial attempt so that you can have a feel for why this pattern is so awesome. I feel by saying the steps, you can see how simple and symmetrical it generally is. So we're going to start with the scrap on the machine. I'm just going to clip it with the hemostat. An easy way to pretend I put a knot and not have it run away. All right, so I'm just going to hold down the bonnet so I could advance it, making sure I don't go too fast. No rings are going to get caught in the slot because they're all have been added as the needle is on its way up, not its way down. For more information on casting on, please just see my videos or email me and I'll send you some information. All right, so here we are. Now we will add our buckle and our stem weights in just a moment. All right. Here we go. So we are added. So the most important is to have a stitch tension that works well with your yarn. So while this is just my orange scrap, you'll notice that none of the stitches are rising, which is perfect. For this means that, at least for the scrap, it's at the right tension. A poorly tension setting for a yarn is when it's kind of rising up and it's trapping the latch from doing its job. So you don't want that. And of course, it doesn't really matter while we're on scrap, but when you are on the sock yarn, that's when it's more important. Anyhow, all right, so that's probably enough. We can start working our toe pattern at this point. So with this, we start with raising all the needles behind the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock position. So here we go. There we go, and now we zippity boo. We go to 12, and then we cut our scrap because we aren't making a sock out of scrap yarn. Excuse me. Okie dokie. Now we're gonna go to a easy to view yarn. This is Knit Picks. I believe the shade is Birthday Cake Speckle, something like that. It's a yarn that was given to me as a thank you. All right, so we are starting our sock yarn with another hemostat clip because it's so easy. There we go. Push that down there. Now it won't run away. Of course, that will try. No big deal. All right, so let's thread our carrier. There, we're ready to start. So our pattern starts always with raising first needle on the right. So we're going to raise that first needle on the right, being the pre-toe. Here we go. We raise the first needle on the right, we pass, raise the first needle on the left. Now we're going to wrap. Wrap the first needle. Wrap the first needle. There we go. Then we're going to raise needle 2. Let's add our heel forks. This is the sweet spot. Heel fork or V-hook and weight from Dave Lord, Chambord, CSM. All right, so we've done that. Now I've misplaced where I am. So raised on the right, raised. Okay, there we are. So this is first one, second one raised. We're going to bop over, raise number 2, come back, wrap number 2, wrap number 2. So the pre-toe segment does a raise, then a wrap. And of course, the post-toe segment does a wrap, then a raise. So raise number 3, raise number 3, wrap number 3, wrap number 3, raise number 4, raise number 4, wrap number 4. Of course, I just see the mistake I did earlier. Flipper, but that's okay. What we'll do is we'll just do this, and we'll do this. On my cast on, I missed, but we're not there yet, so we're fine. Alrighty, so this would be wrap number. I can see here that this will be the third stitch on this needle, so this would be good. Wrap done on the right. And this will be the third one on the left. So wrap on that, then done. You know you've done that right when there's 3 wraps. Okay, good. So we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, raise number 5. Raise number 5. Wrap number 5. Wrap number 5. Raise number 6. Raise number 6, wrap number 6, wrap number 6. And just because we can, let's move our heel fork. So we still give our downward pressure, good. And let's raise number 7, raise number 7, wrap 7. Wrap 7. All right, perfect. Because we are working with pretty much half stitches, thereabouts, we usually work with, for example, 54 cylinder, 72 cylinder. This one is actually 40 altogether. So normally we do the pre-toe, we work a toe, and then we do a post-toe. But as you can tell, I'm already out of needles. So don't worry. In this example, we are going to skip the toe altogether because actually pre and post kind of make up for it. So at this point, we're going to go right to post toe. So post toe involves a wrap and then a lower. So we're going to call this wrap number 1. There's going to be a lot of wraps on this guy. So let's wrap number 1. Wrap number 2. Now we lower. And then we lower. Good. Let's make sure our heel fork and weight are behaving. I feel they're getting caught on something underneath. Okay, there we go. All right. So now we'll do number 2. So with that one, we wrap first. Wrap. Number 2. Wrap. Oop. Behave. So wrap number 2. And then lower 2. Lower 2. Wrap 3. Wrap 3. lower 3, lower 3, wrap 4, wrap 4, lower 4, lower 4, wrap 5, wrap 5, lower 5, lower 5, wrap 6, wrap, I almost dropped it, and drop 6, drop 6. Now we lifted a needle on our first pass, don't worry about it. So let's wrap 7. Now if that first needle isn't behaving, back up and restart it. There we go. Wrap 7. Now this is going to be the last, oh, almost last. Now we lower that one. And this is the last one. So we lower 7 and we stop at 6. Good. So at this point, we're going to look at our toe because we are completely done it and see if it will now have enough fabric in which to hang. So it's good to know with this yarn, this stitch tension, this many needles, what might work to hang for a toe up. There we go. So looking at this here, it does look rather loose. Oh, it looks like I don't know what happened there. It looked like I dropped a stitch or something, just really loose. All right, but we can hang it because you can see I can get all the way across. And that when we look at it, it's halfway. So there's the halfway mark. So we're good. So there we go. So let's hang it now. Now this is, of course, perhaps a toe-up method for a 40 stitch sock, not maybe as preferable as a cuff down 40 stitch sock. My preference would of course be cuff down, but I do remember in the beginning how I did not like to Kitchener, and I'd pretty much do anything I could to not do that. All right, so we want to see if we can get that to hang. I am seeking the first row there to hang. Being that it's only 40 stitches, this is certainly going to be a more loose fiber fabric than I personally would prefer, but let's just see. You won't really know until it's been resting and it's off the machine and it's been washed and dried, the exact gauge. So I'm not pulling unnecessarily. Probably can't see a whole lot, sorry. But you are going to have more needles than you are going to have stitches. So like the regular attempt with this pattern, you'll probably just need to carry some or hang some bars as well. So we're right about there. Looking good. It still kind of lines up, so we're going to continue hanging that first row. But when it's too much of a stretch, we'll start hanging some bars. Here we go. There we go. I think we're there, so let's do that. Maybe let's hang a bar there instead of that. So with the bar, the one to the right, not on the final row, but the row before, and now we're going to hang that first row stitch over here. All right, so here it's getting a little bit snugger than I would prefer. Oh, it's because I goobered that row. What do we got here? I think we would have to hang another bar. Yep, here's a bar. And is that the first row? No, that's this one underneath. It's hiding because it's so firm. There we go. There we are. There we are. So it is a bit hard to see at this point because the stitches are kind of snug. I mean, not many of us are going to have a want to do a toe up 40 40 stitch sock, but certainly my preference is cuff down, but don't let that dissuade you. There we go, because I don't let that bother me. Alrighty, hanging. Looks like we have maybe 2 needles and 1. All right, 1 stitch. So here we go. It's a little hard to get to it. It's kind of hiding underneath. All right, so let's see what we got here. Let's hang this guy here, and let's hang this bar here. I won't tell anybody if you don't, but we fudged it. So because this here was a bit weird, I'm not sure if that was correct there, but we're hung. All right, so now we need to add some weight on your hung toe because you just need that downward pressure in order to do anything. Now, I mentioned in my regular video other ways to add weight. You can certainly just have an extra stem weight and drop it in the middle, and that way it has some downward pressure. This would not be an option, or a soft weight if you were adding a ribber and immediately wanting to use it. There's just no clearance with this guy right in the way. However, the other option is, of course, to use something that might grab from underneath. So you can use the antique startup to kind of grab all that fabric underneath and then connect your stem weights. That works pretty well. Another in a bind way is to use your classic V-hook or your sweet spot and just grab it from the bottom underneath and be very careful, and then add your weight, and that should have some downward pressure. Or what you can use, which I like the most, is the sweet spot, is the tip toe tool set, which basically is a modified classic V-hook with outward facing prongs that's mounted from underneath and then through the hole. So this will make more sense in a minute. So up the middle, there you go, drop your disc, and that way has even weight. Add your stem weights underneath. All right, so it is a bit tight. So as with the pattern at this point, what we do is we want to take care of our yarn tail. Don't know about you, but I hate sewing in ends, so let's machine do it for us. Just kind of E-wrap all the way around, push it down, clip it or hold it in place. I'm going to clip it because I like hands-free. And there we go. Now your first step here is a complete row all the way around to take care of all these extra stitches. There's going to be a lot more tension, so let's work that. 1 complete row. There you go. So now we would work our mock rib pattern, etc. in whatever way that makes sense to you. And there we go. So when you're looking at this, you really can't gauge how big or small a stitch is because right now it's on the rack and it's being stretched like nobody's business. So again, with gauge and with anything on the machine, you won't really know until after it's off the machine. It's been rested, maybe a couple hours overnight, and you washed and dried it. That's when you truly know how big a stitch will be. So that is it. So know the rest of the steps for this sock. Simply follow the pattern I posted on YouTube and or my video sock YouTube page on csmlove.com. Thank you. Bye.